Admiral Jake Harrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm bells started ringing. The sound echoed through the halls of Earth Defense Command like a death warning. Jake dropped his cup and ran to the control room. His heart was beating fast as he pushed through the heavy doors. "What's happening?" Jake asked his communications officer. "Sir, we're getting a transmission. It's not from any Earth ship or station. The signal is coming from outside our solar system." Jake felt cold, fear in his stomach. Humanity had been sending messages to the stars for decades, but nobody had ever answered back. Until now. "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The room went dark. Then a blue light filled the screen. When the light faded, Jake saw something that made his blood turn to ice. A tall creature stood before them. It had gray skin and forearms. Its eyes were black and showed no feeling at all. "People of Earth," the creature said. Its voice was cold and hard like metal. "I am Commander Vexthal of the Valdorian Empire. We have watched your small world for some time. Now we bring you a choice." Jake looked around the room. Every person was staring at the screen with wide eyes. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. "The Valdorian Empire rules over 300 worlds," the alien continued. "We bring peace and order to wild planets. We offer this gift to you as well." The screen changed. Now it showed beautiful cities with tall silver buildings. Alien creatures walked through clean streets. Everything looked perfect and peaceful. "These worlds chose wisdom," Vexthal said. "They accepted our rule. They live in harmony now." Jake felt sick. The aliens in the city moved like robots. Their eyes were empty. This wasn't peace. This was slavery. The screen changed again. This time it showed burning planets, dead cities, empty worlds where nothing lived anymore. "These worlds chose foolishness," the aliens said. "They fought us. Now they are nothing but dust and memory." Jake's hands made fists. He wanted to reach through the screen and fight this creature, but he knew that was impossible. "You have 30 of your days to decide," Vexthal sighed. "Submit to the Empire, or face the same fate as the others. Choose carefully, humans. This offer will not come again." The screen went black. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then everyone started talking at once. "Get me President Morgan." On the line, Jake shouted over the noise. "And call General Carter. We need an emergency meeting. Now, within an hour." The most important people on Earth were sitting around a table in the White House. President Lisa Morgan looked tired, but her eyes were angry. "Tell me we have options," she said to General Ryan Carter. The general shook his head. "Our space fleet has 12 ships. Good ships, but small. If these aliens have conquered 300 worlds, they must have thousands of ships, maybe more. How long would we last in a fight?" President Morgan asked. "Minutes," General Carter said quietly. "Maybe less." Dr. Sophie Blake sat at the end of the table. She had been quiet during the meeting, but now she spoke up. "I need to see that transmission again," she said. "Why?" Jake asked. "There's something strange about it." "The quantum patterns in the signal. They look familiar." President Morgan nodded. "Give her whatever she needs." Back at her lab, Sophie studied the alien message on her computers. She ran the data through every test she could think of. Then she found it. Hidden deep in the signal were energy patterns that matched her secret research. For 2 years, Sophie had been working on something called dimensional weapons. The idea was to tear holes in space itself. The weapons could pass through any shield or armor, but the math was incredibly hard. She had only managed to create tiny rifts in her lab. Alien signal showed the same energy patterns. Someone else was using dimensional technology. But how was that possible? Sophie called Jake immediately. "You need to come to my lab right now," When Jake arrived, Sophie showed him what she had found. They're using dimensional technology, she explained. The same kind I've been working on. But their version is much more advanced than mine. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means they might have a weakness. If I can figure out how their technology works, maybe I can find a way to fight it. Jake felt a small spark of hope. How long do you need? I don't know. Maybe weeks. Maybe months. But Jake, there's something else. If they're using this technology, they might not be as advanced as they want us to think. Dimensional science is new. Very new. Maybe they're not the ancient empire they claim to be. That evening, President Morgan spoke to the world. Billions of people watched as she stood behind a simple wooden desk. My fellow humans, she began. Today we received a message from beyond our world. An alien empire has demanded our surrender. They want us to give up our freedom, our way of life, everything that makes us human. She paused and looked directly into the camera. I have a simple answer for them. No, we will never kneel. We will never surrender. If they want to fight us, then we will show them what humans are made of. As President Morgan spoke, something appeared in the dark space beyond Earth. Small ships moving slowly toward the inner solar system. The Valdorian scouts had arrived. In her lab, Sophie worked through the night. She knew that humanity's future depended on solving the puzzle of dimensional technology. Outside her window, she could see the stars. Somewhere out there, an empire was coming to destroy everything she loved. But Sophie Blake was not afraid. She was angry. And when humans got angry, they found ways to fight back. The countdown had begun. 25 days remained when Admiral Jake Harrison received the worst news of his life. The Valdorian scout ships were moving faster than expected. They would reach Earth's moon in less than a week. Jake stood in the command center, looking. At the display screen, red dots showed the alien ships moving through space like deadly insects. Each dot represented a ship that could probably destroy half of Earth's fleet by itself. How many ships do we have ready? Jake asked his aide. 11. Sir, the USS Liberty is still being repaired from the asteroid mining accident last month. Jake nodded. 11 ships against an empire that ruled 300 worlds. The math was simple and terrifying. Send a message to Captain Amy Rodriguez, Jake said. Tell her to take the Defiance out for reconnaissance. We need to know what we're facing. Captain Amy Rodriguez was Earth's best pilot. She had grown up on Mars colonies and learned to fly in the asteroid belts. Her ship, the UE's Defiance, was humanity's newest and fastest vessel. If anyone could get close to the aliens and survive, it was Amy. Meanwhile, Dr. Sophie Blake worked in her laboratory deep underground. She had not slept in 3 days. Her assistant, Ben Clark, brought her coffee and sandwiches, but Sophie barely noticed. The dimensional equations keep breaking down, Sophie said, staring at numbers on her computer screen. Every time I try to scale up the weapon, something goes wrong. Ben looked worried. Sophie, you need to rest. You can't solve this if you collapse. I don't have time to rest, Sophie snapped. Then she felt bad for being angry. I'm sorry, Ben, but if I can't make this work, everyone on Earth will die. Ben put his hand on her shoulder. Then let me help. Show me what you're working on. Sophie pointed to her computer. I call it Hellfire. It creates tears in space itself. Nothing can stop it. No shield, no armor, but the power requirements are massive. And if we make a mistake, the tear could keep growing until it destroys the whole planet. What if we made smaller versions? Ben asked. Instead of one big weapon, what about many small ones? Sophie looked at him with surprise. That might actually work. The power would be distributed, safer to control. They started working together, running new calculations. For the first time in days, Sophie felt hope. On the moon, Admiral Harrison was building Earth's defense line. Military bases that had been used for training were now turned into weapons platforms. Soldiers who had never expected to fight aliens practiced with new equipment. "Set up the missile batteries behind that crater," Jake ordered, "and make sure the communication dishes are hidden. When the aliens come, I want them to think the moon is empty." Captain Rodriguez flew her ship toward the edge of the solar system. Her crew was nervous but ready. They all knew this mission was dangerous. The aliens had better technology and more experience. "Contact ahead," her sensor officer reported. 3 ships moving in formation. Amy studied the alien vessels on her screen. They were beautiful in a deadly way, with smooth curves and no visible weapons. But she knew they were warships. "Take us closer," Amy ordered. "I want detailed scans of their shields and weapons." As the Defiance moved nearer, the alien ships detected them. Immediately, they changed course and moved to attack. "They're fast," Amy's navigator said. "Not as fast as us," Amy replied. "Take evasive action. Get me those scans." The space battle lasted only minutes. The alien weapons were powerful beams of energy that could cut through most armor like paper. But Amy's ship was small and quick. She flew between the alien vessels, dodging their attacks while her computers recorded everything. "Got it," her sensor officer shouted. "I have complete scans of their shield frequency and weapon systems." "Time to go home," Amy said. Full power. To engines. The Defiance raced back toward Earth, with the alien ships following. But Amy's ship was faster, and she escaped into the asteroid belt, where the bigger alien ships could not follow safely. On Earth, the deadline passed quietly. President Morgan waited in the Situation Room with her advisors. Everyone knew the aliens would respond, but nobody knew when or how. The answer came at dawn. Massive ships appeared near Jupiter, so many that they blocked out the stars. Admiral Zethkar's invasion fleet had arrived. The alien commander sent one final message to Earth. His image appeared on every television and computer screen on the planet. "Humans," he said, "you have chosen war. Your small ships and primitive weapons cannot stop the might of the Empire. Surrender now, and some of you may live as slaves. Fight us, and all of you will die." In underground shelters, families hugged each other and watched the skies. In military bases, soldiers checked their weapons one last time. In the cities, sirens wailed as people moved to safe places. Matt Thompson was a former Marine who now worked as a mechanic in New York. When he saw the alien message, he made a decision. He gathered his old military friends and anyone else who wanted to fight. "They think we'll just lie down and die," Matt told the group. "They don't understand humans very well." His friend Kate Sullivan, a former Air Force pilot, nodded. "What do you need us to do?" "Learn everything you can about fighting an occupation," Matt said. "Because if they land on Earth, we're going to make them regret it." Dr. Blake and Ben had been working for 18 hours straight when they finally had a breakthrough. The smaller dimensional weapons worked. They created tiny tears in space that lasted only seconds, but the energy release was enormous. "This could work," Sophie said, staring at the test results. "We can mount these on ships, maybe even handheld versions for ground troops." "How long to build them?" Ben asked. "Weeks, maybe months for mass production." "We don't have months," Ben pointed. Out. Sophie looked at him with determination. "Then we'll have to work faster." Admiral Harrison received Captain Rodriguez's intelligence report just as the alien fleet began moving toward Earth. The information was both good and bad news. "Their shields operate on a rotating frequency," Amy explained. "If we can match the frequency, our weapons might get through. But their firepower is incredible. One of their cruisers could destroy our entire fleet. Jake studied the tactical data. What about their formation flying? Any weaknesses? They stick together in tight groups. Very organized, very predictable. Maybe we can use that against them. As the alien fleet moved through the solar system, Jake prepared his defense plans. He had 11 ships against hundreds. But humans had always been good at fighting when the odds were against them. In her laboratory, Sophie Blake worked with desperate energy. Outside, alien ships were coming to destroy everything she loved. But she had a weapon that might stop them. If she could just make it work in time. The war for Earth was about to begin. The first explosions lit up the dark side of the moon like deadly fireworks. Admiral Jake Harrison watched from his command bunker as Valdorian ships attacked his defensive positions. The alien weapons were more powerful than anything he had ever seen. North Base is gone, his communications officer reported. South Base is taking heavy damage. Jake gripped the edge of his control table. 6 months of preparation destroyed in minutes. But he had expected this. The moon bases were never meant to stop the aliens. They were meant to slow them down and gather information. Signal the hidden positions, Jake ordered. Begin guerrilla protocol. Across the moon's surface, small groups of human soldiers emerged from caves and hidden bunkers. They carried portable rocket launchers and mining explosives. When the Valdorian ships landed to secure the area, the humans attacked from all directions. The alien soldiers had never faced this kind of fighting. They were used to organized armies that fought in neat formations. Human guerrilla tactics confused and frustrated them. Every crater could hide enemy troops. Every rock could be a Bond. Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the battle reports with growing anger. His forces had taken the moon, but the humans were still fighting. This was not how conquests were supposed to work. How many casualties? He asked his aide. 17 ships damaged, 3 destroyed. Ground forces report constant harassment from hidden enemy positions. Zethkar's 4 arms moved in frustration. No primitive world had ever destroyed 3 of his ships. These humans were proving more troublesome than expected. On Earth, the real invasion began at dawn. Valdorian dropships fell from the sky like metal rain. They landed in major cities around the world, disgorging alien soldiers who immediately began securing strategic positions. In New York, Matt Thompson watched from his apartment window as alien troops marched down Fifth Avenue. The creatures moved with military precision, their weapons ready. But Matt noticed something important. They moved like they expected order and discipline. They were not prepared for chaos. Matt grabbed his radio and called his resistance network. All teams, this is Thunder. Begin Operation Chaos. Make them think twice about coming to our neighborhood. Across the city, small groups of humans began their work. Former soldiers, police officers, and ordinary citizens who refused to surrender. They cut power lines, blocked roads with abandoned cars, and set fires in empty buildings. Soon, black smoke rose from a dozen locations. The Valdorian troops had conquered many worlds, but they had never dealt with an entire population that refused to cooperate. Their standard procedures assumed that most civilians would hide in fear. Instead, humans kept appearing to cause problems and then disappearing again. Kate Sullivan used her pilot training to lead a different kind of resistance. She and her team had modified civilian aircraft with improvised weapons. They flew low and fast, attacking alien convoys before vanishing into clouds or behind buildings. Remember, Kate told her pilots over the radio, "We can't match their firepower, but we can be everywhere and nowhere. Make them afraid of every shadow." Deep underground, Dr. Sophie Blake was having the worst day of her scientific career. Every test of the Hellfire weapon ended in failure. The dimensional tiers were either too small to be useful or too large to control safely. The quantum matrix keeps destabilizing, she explained to Ben Clark. I can create the tiers, but they won't stay focused. Ben studied the test data on his computer screen. What if we're thinking about this wrong? Instead of making the tiers bigger, what if we made them more precise? Sophie looked at him with interest. Explain. A scalpel cuts better than a sword, Ben said. Maybe we don't need massive dimensional tiers. Maybe we need very small, very accurate ones. Sophie started typing new equations into her computer. That would require completely different targeting systems. And the power requirements would be, actually, that might work. While they worked on the weapon calculations, the battle for Earth continued above them. Captain Amy Rodriguez had gathered the survivors of Earth's space fleet for a desperate mission. Only 7 ships remained operational, but she had a plan. We can't fight their main fleet, Amy told her captains during their encrypted conference call. But we can hurt their supply lines. They're bringing equipment and troops through the asteroid belt. If we can disrupt those convoys, we might buy time for the ground forces. The human ships moved through space like deadly ghosts. They used the asteroids for cover and struck quickly at isolated alien vessels. Amy's tactics confused the Valdorian commanders, who expected space battles to be fought between large fleets in open space. Another supply convoy destroyed. Amy's sensor officer reported after their 3rd successful raid. The aliens are starting to send escorts. Good, Amy replied. That means fewer ships attacking Earth. Back on Earth, the Valdorian occupation was not going according to plan. Admiral Estar had expected to control the major cities within hours. Instead, his forces faced constant attacks from an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, human resistance is stronger than anticipated. They're using unconventional tactics that our training did not prepare us for. What kind of tactics? Zethkar demanded. They hide among the civilian population. They use improvised weapons and explosives. When we attack one group, 3 more appear in different locations. And, sir, they seem to be getting help from the general population. This was the part that confused Zethkar the most. On every other world he had conquered, the civilians had hidden and waited for the fighting to end. But Earth's civilians were actively supporting the resistance. Children delivered messages, adults provided shelter, and elderly people acted as spotters and scouts. In her laboratory, Dr. Blake finally achieved success. The modified Hellfire weapon created a tiny but incredibly precise dimensional tier. When she tested it on a block of steel, the metal simply vanished. There was no explosion, no heat, no sound. The tier in space had erased a perfect cube from reality. Ben, look at this, Sophie said excitedly. The tier's only 2 centimeters wide, but it's perfectly controlled. And the power requirements are manageable. Ben examined the test results. How fast can we build more? Give me 48 hours, and I can have a prototype ship-mounted version ready. Handheld weapons will take longer. Sophie immediately called Admiral Harrison on the secure line. Jake, I have good news. The Hellfire weapon works. I need to test it on an alien ship. On the moon, Jake was coordinating another guerrilla attack when he received Sophie's call. For the first time in days, he smiled. How soon can you have it? Ready? 2 days for a ship-mounted version. But Jake, I need one of your ships to come back to Earth for installation. Jake looked at his tactical display. Every human ship was engaged in desperate battles. But if Sophie's weapon worked, it could change everything. I'll send Captain Rodriguez. She's been asking for better weapons anyway. Admiral Zethkar was beginning to understand that he had made a serious mistake. These humans were unlike any species he had conquered before. They did not fight like soldiers. They fought like wild animals defending their cubs, with intelligence and creativity and absolute determination. But the Valdorian Empire had conquered 300 worlds. They had weapons and ships that humans could not match. Zethkar decided to end this resistance once and for all. He would destroy one of Earth's major cities as an example. Then the humans would surrender or face total extinction as he prepared his final assault. Zethkar did not know that in a hidden laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, a human scientist was about to give her species the weapon they needed to fight back. The fire of human determination was about to become a literal flame that could tear holes in space itself. Captain Amy Rodriguez watched in amazement as Dr. Sophie Blake's team installed the Hellfire weapon on her ship. The device looked simple, just a small metal box connected to the ship's power system. But Sophie promised it could do something. Impossible. The weapon creates tears in space itself, Sophie explained as her technicians made the final connections. No shield can stop it. No armor can block it. When you fire this weapon, it will cut through anything in its path. Amy touched the new control panel that had been added to her bridge. How do I aim it? Just like any other weapon, Ben Clark answered. But be careful. The dimensional tear will destroy anything it touches completely. Don't fire it near your own ships. Amy nodded. She had been fighting the aliens for weeks with regular weapons that barely scratched their ships. Now she had something that might actually hurt them. Take the Defiance back into battle, Admiral Jake Harrison ordered over the radio. Find an isolated alien ship and test the weapon. We need to know if this actually works. Amy's ship left Earth's atmosphere and headed toward the asteroid belt. Her crew was nervous, but excited. They had watched their friends die fighting an enemy they could not hurt. Now they might finally have a chance to fight back. Contact ahead, her sensor. Officer reported. One Valdorian cruiser moving alone toward Mars. Perfect, Amy thought. One ship far from any backup. If the Hellfire weapon worked, they could destroy it before other aliens arrived to help. Take us in close, Amy ordered. I want to see this thing die. The alien cruiser detected Amy's ship and immediately turned to attack. Energy beams flashed through space, but Amy's pilot was skilled at dodging. The Defiance moved like a dancer, spinning and diving between the alien weapons. In range, Amy's weapons officer announced. Fire Hellfire, Amy commanded the weapon. Made no sound. There was no flash of light or explosion. But where the alien ship had been, there was suddenly a hole. Not damage, not destruction. A perfect round hole where part of the ship had simply vanished. The alien cruiser began spinning out of control. Atmosphere and debris poured out of the hole in its hull. Within seconds, the entire ship exploded as its power systems failed. Amy's crew cheered. For the first time since the war began, they had destroyed an alien ship in seconds instead of running away. Send a message to Admiral Harrison, Amy said with a big smile. Tell him the Hellfire weapon works perfectly. On Earth, news of the VA. Successful test spread through the resistance networks like wildfire. Matt Thompson received the message while coordinating attacks in New York City. For weeks, his people had been fighting with small weapons against alien soldiers in powered armor. Now they might get weapons that could actually win. Sophie's done it, Matt told his team. We're going to have real weapons soon. Kate Sullivan was flying her modified aircraft when she heard the news over her radio. She had been attacking alien convoys with improvised bombs and stolen alien weapons. The idea of having dimensional weapons made her laugh with joy. All pilots, this is Kate, she announced to her squadron. Change of plans. We're not just harassing the aliens anymore. We're going hunting. Dr. Blake worked day and night to build more Hellfire weapons. Her laboratory became a factory as every available scientist and engineer helped with production. The first weapons went to Captain Rodriguez's ship and 2 other surviving vessels from Earth's fleet. "We need ground-based versions, General Ryan," Carter told Sophie during one of their planning meetings. "The resistance fighters need something they can carry." "I'm working on it," Sophie replied, showing him blueprints on her computer. "Portable versions will be ready in another week. But I'm also working on something else. Something that might change everything." "What is it?" the general asked. Sophie smiled. "Dimensional portals. If I can create stable tiers in space, we can move ships and troops instantly across vast distances. The aliens won't know where we'll attack next." Meanwhile, Captain Rodriguez had received 2 more ships with Hellfire weapons. Her small task, Force, now calling themselves the Burning Stars, began systematic attacks on Valdorian positions throughout the solar system. The aliens had never faced weapons like these before. Their shields and armor, which had protected them for centuries, became useless. Human ships could appear, destroy alien vessels in seconds, and disappear before reinforcements arrived. Admiral Zeth Carr grew more frustrated with each report of destroyed ships. His invasion was supposed to be finished by now. Instead, he was losing vessels to an enemy that should not have been able to fight back. "How are they doing this?" he demanded from his bridge crew. "Unknown, sir, his science," officer replied. "Their weapons create some kind of spatial distortion. Our shields cannot stop them." "Then we will overwhelm them with numbers," Zeth Carr decided. "Send word to the capital. I need more ships." But his message would never reach the Valdorian home. Worlds. Grace Parker, a human communications specialist, had been intercepting alien transmissions for weeks. She had learned their communication codes and was jamming their signals. "Their fleet commander is asking for reinforcements," Grace reported to Admiral Harrison. "But I'm blocking the message. They're on their own." Jake smiled. If the aliens could not call for help, then humanity had a chance. "How long can you keep jamming their communications?" "As long as you need," Grace replied. "I've also been listening to transmissions from other parts of the galaxy. Jake, I think other worlds are starting to rebel too. News of our resistance is spreading." This was the best news Jake had heard since the war began. If other conquered worlds were fighting back, the Valdorian Empire was facing problems everywhere. Dr. Blake achieved another breakthrough when she successfully created a stable dimensional portal in her laboratory. The portal was only large enough for a person to walk through, but it connected her lab to a facility on the moon instantly. "Ben, step through the portal," Sophie said to her assistant. Ben looked nervous but stepped through the glowing doorway. Instantly, he disappeared from Earth and appeared in the moon facility. Then he stepped back through and returned to the lab. "It works," he said with amazement. "No travel time at all." Sophie began designing larger portals that could transport entire ships. If her calculations were correct, human forces could attack anywhere in the galaxy and return to Earth in seconds. Captain Rodriguez tested the portal technology during her next mission. Her ship used a portal to appear directly behind a group of alien ships near Jupiter. The aliens had no warning. By the time they realized they were under attack, 3 of their vessels were already destroyed. "This changes everything," Amy reported to Admiral Harrison. "We can hit them anywhere, anytime, and they can't predict where we'll strike next." The Battle of Europa proved how effective the new tactics could be. A large Valdorian fleet was mining resources from Jupiter's moon when human forces attacked. Using portals, Captain Rodriguez's ships appeared from multiple directions at once. The aliens had never faced an attack like this. Human ships would appear, fire their Hellfire weapons, destroy alien vessels, and vanish through portals before return fire could reach them. The entire Valdorian fleet was destroyed in less than an hour, For the first time since the invasion began, Admiral Zethkar felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These humans had weapons and tactics that made no sense. How could a primitive species develop technology that the Empire had never seen? On Earth, the Resistance forces received their first portable Hellfire weapons. Matt Thompson held one of the devices in his hands. It looked like a large rifle, but he knew it could destroy alien vehicles instantly. Time to take our cities back, he told his fighters. The tide of war was turning. Humanity had found its fire, and that fire was burning brighter than any star. Soon, the flames of human determination would spread across the galaxy, carrying hope to every world that dreamed of freedom. Admiral Zethkar did not know it yet, but his empire was about to face the greatest challenge in its history. And it was coming from a small blue planet whose people refused to kneel. 6 months after the first Valdorian attack, Admiral Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of humanity's new flagship, the UES Liberation. Through the viewing window, he could see the largest fleet in human history preparing for battle. 50 ships, equipped with Hellfire weapons and portal technology, floated in space around Earth. But these were not just human ships anymore. Vessels from 12 different worlds had joined the fleet. The Cathani had brought their fast scout ships. The Zulmar provided heavy cruisers. The Nexare contributed their advanced sensors. All of them had one thing in common. They had been slaves of the Valdorian Empire, and now they were free. Admiral, his communications officer, reported, were receiving messages from resistance groups on 30 more worlds. They're ready to fight as soon as we give the signal. Jake smiled. What had started as humanity's desperate war for survival had become something much bigger. A revolution that was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Dr. Sophie Blake had spent the last 6 months turning her laboratory into the most advanced weapons facility in known space. Her dimensional technology was now being used by allied species throughout the galaxy. But her greatest achievement was not a weapon. It was the communication network that connected all the rebel worlds instantly. The portal network is ready, Sophie reported to the allied commanders. We can coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy in real time. The Empire won't know what hit them. On Earth, the last Valdorian forces had been defeated weeks ago. Matt Thompson now led a planetary defense force of former resistance fighters. They had become experts at training newly liberated populations in guerrilla warfare tactics. Every world fights differently, Matt explained to a group of alien resistance leaders. But the Empire always makes the same mistakes. They expect order and fear. Give them chaos and determination instead. Kate Sullivan had become commander of the Allied Fighter Corps, training pilots from dozens of species. Her squadron now included humans, Cathani, Zulmor, and many others, all flying ships equipped with human-designed weapons. Remember, Kate told her pilots before their next mission, we're not just fighting for our own worlds anymore. We're fighting for every species that dreams of freedom. Admiral Zethkar had watched his empire crumble piece by piece. World after world had rebelled, using weapons and tactics they had learned from the humans. His fleet, once the terror of the galaxy, was now scattered and demoralized. Sir, his aide reported nervously, the humans are leading a massive fleet toward our stronghold system. Intelligence estimates over 200 ships, representing 50 different species. Zethkar felt his 4 hearts beating with rage and fear. How had this happened? How had a single primitive world turned into the center of a galactic revolution? Gather every ship we have left, he ordered. We will make our final stand at Kethmara. If we must fall, we will take as many of them with us as possible. The Battle of Kethmara began when Captain Amy Rodriguez led the first wave of Allied ships through dimensional portals. Her task force appeared directly in the heart of the Valdorian defensive line, causing immediate chaos. "All ships, this is Rodriguez," she announced over the fleet communication system. "For every world that has suffered under Empire rule, for every family torn apart by conquest, for freedom itself. Attack!" The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships from dozens of worlds fought side by side, using weapons that could tear holes in space itself. The Valdorian forces, despite their experience and training, could not match the combined fury of species fighting for their freedom. Admiral Harrison coordinated the overall strategy from the Liberation. Using Sophie's portal network, he could instantly move ships wherever they were needed most. The battle became a deadly dance of appearing and vanishing fleets that confused and overwhelmed the Empire forces. "Zethkar's flagship is trying to escape," Grace Parker reported from her communication station. "I'm tracking his ship's movement through the portal detection grid." "Rodriguez, take your squadron and cut him off," Jake ordered. "Don't let him get away." Amy's ships used portals to surround the Valdorian flagship before it could reach the edge of the system. For the first time in his career, Admiral Zethkar found himself trapped with no way to retreat. "This is Admiral Harrison of the Galactic Liberation Alliance," Jake announced over an open channel. "Admiral Zethkar, your empire is finished. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated with mercy." Zethkar stared at the human ships surrounding him. These creatures had turned from helpless prey into the leaders of a galactic revolution in less than a year. It was impossible, but it had happened. "I am Zethkar, Fleet Admiral of the Valdorian Empire," he replied with as much dignity as he could manage. "I surrender my forces to you." The surrender of Zethkar marked the end of Valdorian rule in the galaxy. But the real work was just beginning. Representatives from over 100 worlds gathered on Earth to form the Galactic Liberation Alliance. President Lisa Morgan addressed the historic assembly in a speech that would be remembered for centuries. "We came together not as conquerors, but as friends," she said. "We fought not for empire, but for the right of every species to choose its own destiny. Today, we plant the seeds of a galaxy where freedom grows on every world." The Treaty of Terra established the principles that would guide the new alliance. No world would be forced to join. No species would rule over another. Technology and knowledge would be shared freely among all members. Matt Thompson was chosen as the first human ambassador to the liberated worlds. His experience fighting oppression made him the perfect person to help other species build their own defense forces. Dr. Sophie Blake founded the Alliance Science Council, where researchers from hundreds of worlds worked together to solve the galaxy's greatest challenges. Her dimensional technology became the foundation for instant communication and travel between allied worlds. Captain Rodriguez was promoted to Admiral and given command of the Alliance Defense Force. Her mission was to protect the growing number of free worlds and help any species still fighting for liberation. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy saw humanity. What had started as a demand for submission had revealed something unexpected. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were natural leaders who inspired others to fight for their freedom. A year after the first Valdorian ultimatum, Admiral Harrison stood in the same command center where he had first heard the alien message. But now, instead of preparing for desperate defense, he was coordinating relief efforts for newly liberated worlds. "Admiral," his aide reported, "we're receiving a distress call from the Outer Rim. The Kelvani system is under attack by the last Valdorian holdouts." Jake smiled. "Send word to all allied fleets. It's time to finish what we started." As human and allied ships prepared for another liberation mission, Jake thought about how much had changed. The aliens had demanded that humanity kneel before their empire. Instead, humanity had shown the galaxy how to stand up and fight. The fire that had started on one small blue planet now burned on 1,000 worlds. And wherever that fire spread, freedom followed. The Valdorian Empire was gone, but its legacy lived on in an unexpected way. By trying to conquer humanity, they had created something far greater than any empire. They had created an alliance of free worlds that would protect liberty throughout the galaxy for generations to come. The humans had responded to the demand for submission with fire, and that fire had lit up the darkness between the stars, showing every species in the galaxy that freedom was worth fighting for.